You know, a very interesting thing, we give fear way too much credit. And do you know what's funny about that? Most of the time, the things that we fear or the things that we dread don't actually exist. And what's sad is a lot of us who are trying to achieve something great or accomplish a goal or be someone or go somewhere, we allow something that doesn't exist to stop us from something that could potentially be one of the realest parts about us. So how do we overcome fear? How do you get past that doubt? How do you get past that overwhelming sense of dread that keeps you where you are and keeps you from not going to where you want to go? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. What's going on, guys? My name is Gaby Kemsey and welcome to my channel. On my channel, I help you guys master your mindset and build the life that you deserve. In this video, we're talking all about how do you overcome fear. Now, like I said before, a lot of the times fear actually isn't really real, but where does it come from? Now, there's a real big difference in the types of fear that we as human beings experience. Now, originally, this came from a biological standpoint. Now, if you fast forward, or if you rewind, thousands of years back when we were kind of not civilized like we are today, there was a real genuine fear to stay alive and survive. And our brains, which are super incredible and super intellectual, they instill fear in us to help us survive. If there's a saber-toothed tiger or something chasing us, that fear is what's going to help adrenaline spike and help our muscles tighten and help our vision focus and help us run and hide or fight in order to survive. In that sense, fear isn't a bad thing, right? Fear is keeping you alive. And there are different situations in our daily lives where fear like that is super important because it helps keep you alive, okay? If you are, in a burning building and you're not afraid, something is wrong. You wanna be afraid because that's going to urge you to get the heck out of that building. But what ends up happening, though, is that now that we are living in a society where we're not really running away from saber-toothed tigers or whatnot, fear has kind of shifted into something that honestly isn't really real. But what is it? Because it feels real, and it feels so real that it keeps us from accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. So where does fear come from? Honestly, most of the time, all fear really is just bad management of our mindset. In our daily lives, there's one question that we can ask ourselves, and that is, what if? And the answer to that question is really going to define how you actually move on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're leaning more towards fear, your answer to the question, what if, is going to be, well, what if this doesn't work? Or what if I fail? Or what if people don't accept who I am? Or what if, right? Looking at all the negative things. Now, that right there is stemming from what you are allowing yourself to think, what you are allowing yourself to kind of imagine as the end goal and the end result. But here's the thing, and this is why I want you guys to understand where fear comes from, because once you understand where fear actually comes from, then you become competent in it. And if you become competent in it, then you can become confident in it. So there's this thing in psychology called the confidence-competency loop. And what that states is the more you understand something, the more competent you are in it. And the more competent you are in it, the more confident you are in it, right? So let's take it for an example, you're studying for a test. Now, if you walk into a test and you've never studied, you're gonna be afraid, right? But if you actually take the time before that test day to study, you start to review your materials and read your books and do all that kind of stuff, you become more competent in the material. You begin to understand that material more and more and more. And as you begin to understand and become more confident in it, then your confidence increases because all of a sudden you start getting more answers right. And then so when you walk into that test, you can feel a certain level of confidence because you understand what's going on. So the same thing applies with our fears. Once you understand where your fear is coming from, you can be able to understand it. And then once you understand it, you become more confident because you know that at the end of the day, the fear that you might be feeling might not actually really be what you're fearing about. It might actually not be real at all. It could just simply be something that you have to deal with and fight in your mind. All right, makes sense, right? But to understand fear, we have to understand the different types of fears. And there are 3 that I want to point out to you. And each one of these can resonate with you in different ways, or, depending on what you are currently going through right now or what you're currently trying to accomplish. Now, the first area of fear is what I call fear of loss. Now, this happens when we are afraid of losing something, when we are pursuing something. So let's say you're trying to lose weight and you go on a diet. Sometimes we're afraid of, we're going to miss all the tasty foods that we love to eat. Or, we're afraid that we're going to miss out on going on to certain things because we have to work out. You might be afraid of leaving your job to start that business that you've always wanted to because you're afraid of losing that steady paycheck, or you're afraid of losing that maybe friendships that you have with your coworkers. You're afraid to get rid of your 401k because that's, your security blanket. You might be afraid of losing friends or family members or spouses because they don't believe in what you believe, or they don't get the vision or get the goals that you have. Right? So there's this whole thing of fear of loss. And because of that chance of losing something, we are afraid to pursue it because we don't want to lose things that we generally care about. I've experienced this personally in my life. I remember when I was teetering between whether I wanted to continue on with becoming like a doctor and finishing medical school, or starting my business and becoming an entrepreneur and a digital marketer. And at that time, it was so hard for me to decide because of this particular type of fear of loss. Because on one hand, I had the chance to move into a career that was pretty predictable, sustainable. I mean, there's always going to be need for doctors. You can make, great money doing so, doing that. And that really kind of held me back from deciding ultimately not to go because, I would be giving up the security. I would be giving up such a great career to pursue something that I don't really know how it's going to turn out, right? It's unpredictable here. Maybe I'll be able to make more money and have more freedom and all that kind of stuff, but you just don't know. So that whole fear of loss was something that I had to deal with personally. And it wasn't until I actually decided to kind of step out on faith that then I realized that it was ultimately the right decision for me. But in all, that fear of loss is really something that keeps us back because we're afraid to lose things that we care about. So how do you get over this fear of loss type of fear? What you want to do is you want to reorient your mind to not necessarily focusing on what you're going to lose, but focus on what you're going to gain. Focus on what's going to be brought into your life that's positive. So, going back to the whole working out analogy, you might be afraid to work out and start living a healthier lifestyle because you're afraid you're going to miss your favorite foods. Well, what you can do is look at the positives, right? You can imagine yourself, being fitter, feeling better, being healthier, and understanding that those gains and focusing on those gains more oftentimes than not outweighs those things that you might lose. As far as being in business or leaving your job, you might be afraid to get rid of that steady paycheck, but the gain that you could be focusing on is the freedom that you could create, maybe amount of money that you could possibly create being an entrepreneur versus being stuck in a 9-to-5. I'm not saying a 9-to-5 is wrong or anything, but understanding and focusing on those things that you could gain can really help you to then tame that whole pain of loss thing that keeps us in a fearful state. The second type of pain is pain of change. Now, I know for a fact, as humans, we do not like change at all. In fact, anything that equates to change is uncomfortable. And especially when the change is hard, because inevitably change is hard. So we are afraid of that. If we want to lose weight, we think the process of actually going through losing weight is a painful kind of process because we have to work out now and we have to kind of keep ourselves from eating out late or, eating junk food, things that kind of give us pleasure. And that whole process is painful. Starting a business, thinking about man, all the hours you're going to have to put in. I'm going to have to put in 24 hours a day to work on my business. I'm going to have to make sacrifices and not go to certain events or not hang out with certain people. On days when I want to sit in and maybe watch TV, I have to focus on making sales calls or creating content, right? So the actual process of change is painful. So how do you overcome the pain of change? What you want to do is you want to start to realize that there's actually positivity in challenge, right? That challenge is actually a good thing. It shouldn't be something that we should be afraid of. In fact, it's something that we should embrace and run towards. Why? Because it's challenge that actually creates who we are and who we ultimately become. Challenge is the same thing as, pressure when it comes to making diamonds. You need to apply that pressure in order for those diamonds to be created and to manifest, right? At the same time, the more you are pushed and the more you are stretched, that is going to help you build resilience. That's going to help you build confidence. That's going to help you learn the lessons that you need to learn. Those are going to help you push forward and ultimately get to where you want to go. If you want to gain weight, as far as like muscle mass in the gym, you can't do that by lifting the same weights over and over and over again. You have to steadily increase the weight, steadily increase the load. And as you do that, what you're doing is you're applying more stress to your muscles. And that challenge is what commands your muscles to then respond and to get bigger. Okay, so understanding that although the road might be challenging in regards to the process of change, not necessarily looking at, okay, this is going to be a hard process. You don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on, how can I benefit from this challenge? How can I benefit from this problem or this obstacle? Because at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to help you grow. Those are the things that are going to actually help you get to where you want to go. Because all the time, really, success is really behind failure. And you have to actually go through failure in order to get through to success. Okay, so the last type of fear is pain of result. And this is probably one of the most common pieces of fear that we might deal with, and that is the fear that all of this won't be worth it, right? The grass isn't actually greener on the other side. What if I put in all this time and I put in all this effort and I do all this work and I make all these sacrifices and my business fails, or I don't make any money, or I don't lose weight, or I lose that person I care about, or X, Y, and Z, right? Like, what if all that happens and it's for nothing? That could potentially be a real situation, which is why it's so scary, which is why it's one of the 3 fears that we fear the most. So how do you get past that? How do you get past this dread that despite all the work that you might want to do, or despite the work that you're doing, it might not pay off at the end? So how do you get over this pain of a result? Pain that if you put in all this work, it might not work out. Well, a couple things here. One, you want to focus on what if it does work out, okay? Now, this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. We all have this question of what if, and how we answer that question is really going to dictate where we're going, And if we are answering that question, what if this fails? What if this doesn't work? What if I lose somebody, or X, Y, and Z? We are tapping more into our fear. So what you want to do is you want to switch from tapping more into a fear mindset to tapping into more of a faith mindset. What if it does work out? What if you do become rich? What if you do lose weight and have the body of your dreams? What if you do find someone that you really love and loves you back? Right? What if you can become a successful parent, or become a successful business owner, or traveler, or author, or a speaker, right? Or actor? What if it's possible? And not only possible, but what if it could happen? Focusing on that, focusing on the what if in that positive light is really what's going to help you diminish those what ifs of the negative. Because here's the truth. You can't drive out darkness with more darkness, right? Only light can do that. So if you're going to fight fear, you can't fight fear with more fear. You have to fight it with faith. So when it comes to deciding, okay, how am I going to move forward and pursue this? And you have that thought of, is it even going to be worth it at the end of the day? Because it might not happen. You want to be able to realize that, check that thought and be like, no, like, what if it does happen? I feel like, and this is something that I really truly believe, I feel like anything that we have in regards to maybe a dream that we want to aspire to was given to us for a reason, right? There's a reason why you have that. There's a reason why, you want to do X, Y, and Z. So what if you couldn't fail, right? Ask yourself that question. What if failure wasn't an option? What if you were meant to do this? If you think about that, and if you focus on and meditate on that, then that's what's really gonna help you move forward and move past the, well, what if it doesn't work? And I'm gonna be real with you, maybe sometimes it doesn't work, but that doesn't mean that it's not for a reason. A lot of times we have to go through certain things and we have to fail at certain things to ultimately get to the success that is really meant for us. But if we're not willing to do that in the first place, we're not gonna get there in the end. We stop short of the goal. It's kind of like that picture of the guy that's like digging for gold. There's two people that are digging for gold and one person stops like just shy of the gold. Like if he just whacked it like 5 more times, he would have been rich. But because he stopped prematurely, he didn't reach his goal. And because of that, fear of all of this work is for nothing. Okay, so shifting your mindset to, listen, I understand it's very easy to think none of this is gonna work, but what if it does, right? Because when you focus on that, that's really what's gonna help you get past that original fear of not being, of all this for not being nothing. Because once you embrace that, that's gonna help you get past that pain of result. Fear is really something that we can decide whether we want to feed or to not feed. And by understanding that there's these different types of fears, that sometimes we fear change, sometimes we fear the result and it not happening, sometimes we fear what other people think, or sometimes we fear that, we're not good enough. Whatever that fear may be, what you want to do is not focus on that fear, because that fear is just something in your mind. And when it comes to getting out there, you need to set your sights on what is possible. You want to set your sights on the positive. You want to set your sights on the possibility. Because when you do that and you focus on that, just like when you're driving a car or you're sailing a ship, you need to focus on the direction you want to go, okay? And you're gonna go where you're looking. And if you're constantly looking at how this is going to fail, then chances are inevitably this is going to fail. But if you look at the other side of the coin, right, and you replace your fear mindset with more of a faith mindset, and because at the end of the day, both situations are not real, right? I mean, and what I mean by that is, and like, what if this happens and it's bad, right? This is the future. It hasn't happened yet. In the same way, you can ask, what if this could happen and it's good? It hasn't happened yet. So none of these situations are real. The realest thing you can do is choose now which realization do you want to actually experience. That's the beauty of being human, right? The power of choice, being able to decide what we're going to choose to believe and put our focus and intention to. So I hope this video is helpful for you guys. I hope it really allows you to understand the fear that you are feeling is regular. It's normal. It's part of being human, right? It comes with the package. But understanding where it comes from and then choosing and deciding to look at what is actually true to you is really what's going to help you move forward, and really it's going to help you get to where you want to go, guys. All right, guys, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, guys. And I really do appreciate it when you guys do share this content, because I know there's so many people out there that need to hear this, and that's the way that we grow. So I really do appreciate all of the sharing, all of the love. And last but not least, I'm going to leave you with how I'm going to leave you with every one of my videos. Don't forget and always remember, you only live once. Make it count. Perfect. Perfect.